Abear, the hearing officer. At this time, I would ask the staff if there are any changes or additions to the agenda.
Hearing Officer Aber, yes. Staff would like to table item A, case number 245250, due to notification error made by staff.
And that is the James and Jeanette Wood case, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. And there are no other changes? That's it. At this time, I would call the first case we'll hear, which was case 245310, and it is Christine Stryker or Stryker, not sure which. And it's request for a variance of the dimensional standards to allow 3 primary residences on a parcel of land consisting of 5.033 acres. Ms. Valdez, I have an initial question. Again, it
Okay.
goes to the notice. And if you'd look at Exhibit H,
Yes, ma'am.
which is the posting and the publication and the mailing.
Mhm.
And when I look at the notice that was published, it says that the request is to allow 2 primary residences on a parcel of land. And it's actually 3. The way I understand it, it's the primary and then a duplex, which contains 2 different residences. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when we did do the posting and we finally looked at it, we decided that it would be considered 3 structures instead of the 2 dwelling. Instead of 2 dwellings, it would be 3 because of the top and the bottom.
Well, my concern is that anyone reading this notice is going to think that there was just 2 residences involved, and in fact, it's 3 residences involved. I would ask legal if they have a problem with that, or if they think that's an issue that satisfies the public notice.
I do think that it's a technical error, whether it's substantive enough to warrant tabling and renoticing is a difficult issue. Madam Hearing Officer, my understanding is that it truly is 2 structures,
Yes.
2 dwelling units, or I should say 2 structures is more accurate, and 3 units, because one of them is a duplex-type structure. I'm also aware that, or have been notified that there have been no objections made to this particular application. So it's not an ideal situation, but I'm not uncomfortable with, especially since this is a recommendation-type quasi-judicial hearing, I would be comfortable with your hearing it and making a recommendation based on the information presented to you.
And physically, the structures aren't going to be any different than they appear, whether it's allowed or disallowed, the way that it appears to neighbors. I guess the only concern would be water usage, that sort of thing. All right. Well, we'll go forward and hear this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Aber. My name is Maggie Valdez. I'm a Development Review Specialist Senior. Today I come before you with case number 245310, Christine Stryker variance. Christine Stryker applicant requests a variance of Chapter 8, Table 8-9, Dimensional Standards Residential Fringe, RESF, to allow the 3 primary residents on a parcel of land consisting of 5.033 acres. The subject property lies within the RESF zoning district, which allows for 1 dwelling per 5 acres. The property is located at 23 Saddle Road, SDA 2, Commission District 4. Summary. The applicant is requesting a variance of Table 8-9 dimensional standards to allow a residence a two-story duplex that consists of two separate apartments on the property for a total square footage of 1,400. The single-family home is 1,309 square feet, and the property lies within the Residential Fringe Zoning District, RESF, within the Sunlit Hills area. The RESF district may be comprised of variety of residential lot sizes, clustered housing, and community open space, and can include limited agricultural use accessory to residential use. The applicant states, this is a request to allow 2 guest houses in a separate 2-story residence at our property, which there was a correction there for 3 guest houses. At 23 Saddle Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508. The building is already there and nothing new will be constructed. The resident has 2 guest houses, one on the top and one on the bottom. Table 8-9 dimensional standards illustrates that the density of the acres per dwelling are 5 acres, lot width minimum feet 100 and height 24 feet. In the response to section 4.9.74, the applicant has addressed the variance criteria as follows. The applicant has added the variance criteria and staff has responded to the applicant's comments. Building and Development Services staff has conducted a site inspection on the property. Building and Development Service staff reviewed the variance application for the compliance with the pertinent SLDC requirements and found that the facts presented do not support the request for a variance to allow the accessory structure to encroach into the required setbacks. Specifically, staff found that there are other buildable areas on the property. The structure has constructed with permits. Was constructed without permits. If the applicants would have consulted with staff prior to building the structure, staff has advised the applicants of the setback requirements, thus avoiding this situation entirely. Recommendation. Staff recommends denial of the variance request to allow an existing unpermitted structure dwelling that applicant's request for a variance does not meet the criteria for variance set forth in the SLDCs. If the hearing officer finds that the variance request has met the variance criteria and finds that the variance request is a minimal easing and recommends approval of the variance to allow an existing accessory dwelling, staff recommends the following conditions. Hearing officer Hebert, may I enter the conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
The applicant shall obtain an after-the-fact permit for the primary resident, 2 sheds, and an accessory dwelling. The applicant shall obtain a business license from the Santa Fe County. No further dwellings or accessory structures shall be permitted. The applicant shall obtain a short-term rental permit. This report and exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Staff requests the hearing officer memorize findings of fact, conclusions of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter on February 20th, 2024. Hearing Officer Hebert, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
In your recommendation on page 5, you refer to the unpermitted accessory dwelling, and then again, a variance to allow the existing accessory dwelling. In fact, there are 2 dwellings that are there. And I'm wondering whether or not staff considered the possibility of allowing one of those 2 dwellings, a half of the duplex, to be considered an after-the-fact dwelling in conformity with the auxiliary dwelling rules.
Officer Hebert, so when we were working on the variance for Ms. Stryker, she came in and she wanted to get, what she wanted to do was she wanted to get a short-term rental permit. So when we looked into it, we found that she could only get for 1. But then as the project went on, we found out that she didn't meet variance because of the other home, how the structure was built on the property. It didn't meet setbacks. So it was turned over to us, and when we do start our reports, we have to look into it. And at that time, Ms. Stryker purchased this property with no permits on it. So there wasn't permits for the other structures when we looked into the case. So it was bought like this.
And what exactly are the issues with the setbacks? Because I didn't see, it's on page 5 of your report.
Hearing Officer Aber, I don't believe there is. I think that is a typo from a previous memo that wasn't corrected.
Okay, thank you. Would staff recommend allowing the after-the-fact permitting of one of the 2 duplexes?
At this point, staff, we've discussed it, and we have come to a conclusion that she would be able to go ahead and do the after-the-fact permitting on the structures.
On both?
On the duplex, I guess, is that what we would call it? And also the home. And there also was another shed that I did mention in my report that would be after the fact permitting because the property was purchased like that.
Okay, but looking at the staff written report, it recommends denial of, to allow the existing unpermitted accessory dwelling. So are you saying that the staff has changed its recommendation on that?
Hearing Officer Aber, just to clarify, this is 3 residences on 5.0,
Yes.
whatever, 3 acres. It does not qualify for an accessory dwelling because it is 2 stories in height. Therefore, it's brought before you as a variance of density for the 3 dwellings.
And it also has 2 separate septics, isn't that the case?
Hearing Officer Aber, that is correct?
That is correct.
And so the reasoning for the denial is because of the variance for the density requirements. There is no way to go about other than a denial and then bringing that structure into one single-family residence and then therefore it be a density or turning it into an accessory structure which is allowed 2 stories. So the request for denial would be for the applicant to convert it back into an accessory structure.
A
Allow it
structure
to
that
be-
would not be habitable.
Correct.
I see. Okay. So that is staff's recommendation.
Correct. And just to be noted, she did purchase the property this way. So it was just an error in that part.
Yes, it's not the first one we've considered.
No.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Stryker, do you have anything you want to add to this?
My name is Christine Stryker. 223 Saddle Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508.
Ms. Stryker, is there anything that you'd like to add in response to any of my questions or anything that staff has said?
No, I purchased the property that way, and I do have 2 guest
Just a moment, please.
I have 2 guest houses, and I would like to rent those. So I'm asking for a permit to allow me to, use those as guest houses.
Have you been using them as such?
What is
since-
that?
Have you used them as rental properties since you purchased it?
Yes, the top one, yes. The bottom one, no. And that's why I came to ask for permission for the bottom one.
I see, okay. Thank you. Is there anything else?
No. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here that wants to speak on this application, in favor or opposed? No? All right. In that case, I'll prepare a recommended order on this within 15 business days. Thank you. In the next case, I have here is case number 245220 HDH Farms.
Good afternoon, Officer Hebert. I'll be presenting for Brianna Ortega today. Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Hebert. My name is Maggie Valdez. I'm a Development Review Specialist, Senior. Today I come before you with case number 245220, HDH Farms LLC, Conditional Use Permit. HDH Farms LLC applicant and property owner Dillian Stillman and agent Christian Thompson request a CUP to allow a cannabis producer microbusiness up to 200 plants that will cultivate cannabis plants is exclusively outdoors. The 15.247 acre site is zoned residential estate. The site is located at 18 Loma Lane within Section 7, Township 20, North, Range 9 East, SDA 2, Commission District 1. Summary. The applicants request approval of a CUP to allow a 80,000 square foot existing grow area for the purpose of producing cannabis. The area will be located on a 15.47 acre parcel of land. The applicant is requesting to abide by New Mexico Regulation and Licensing Department, RLD, regulations pertaining to licensing and operating the grow site, including issues such as access, security, and monitoring by RLD. The applicant has obtained a New Mexico cannabis producer microbusiness license, which allows a cannabis producer at a single licensed premises to pose no more than 200 total mature cannabis plants at one time. The applicant states that it is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow an 80,000 square foot grow area. The grow area is for the purpose of producing cannabis flowers. The 15.247 acre property is within the residential estate zoning district. The Cannabis Control Division is responsible for regulating the adult use marijuana program. Access to cannabis is through state licensed cannabis business. The property owner will be on site year-round to ensure proper site maintenance, preparation for planting, and off-season soil health management. Though most of the activity will happen from April through November to include pre- and post-cultivation. The active growing season will run from May through October, lasting approximately 6 months, depending on weather conditions and cultivation cycles. The business will not employ any additional staff. The work will be carried out by property owner, as well as 2 other family members. The product will be transported to an off-site manufacturing production facility and will not be open to the public. In response to the CUP criteria, the applicant states the following. The applicant has addressed the CUP criteria and staff has responded to the application comments. Applicable SLDC design and standards. The applicant has addressed the applicable design standards as required by the SLDCs. Building and Development Services staff has reviewed the project for compliance with the pertinent SLDC requirements and has found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit to allow 80,000 square feet existing grow area for the purpose of producing cannabis. The use is compatible with the current development within the affected zoning district. The use will not impact adjacent land uses, and the application satisfies the submittal requirements set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.65. The review and comments from the State Historic Preservation Office and county staff have established findings that the application to allow an 80,000 square foot existing grow area for the site proposes of producing cannabis outdoors is in compliance with state requirements. Standards identified in the SLDC Section 10.22 Ordinance 2021-03 and required design standards set forth in the SLDCs. Recommendations. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to allow a cannabis microbusiness up to 200 plants that will cultivate cannabis plants exclusively outdoors, subject to the following conditions. Hearing Officer Abear, may I enter the conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
The CUP showing the site layout and any other conditions that may be imposed through the approval process shall be recorded at the expense of the applicants in the office of the county clerk in accordance with Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.8. Number 2, the approval of the CUP will allow for the 80,000 square foot area to be utilized to cultivate cannabis plants as illustrated on the drawing that was submitted to staff. Number 3, the applicant shall obtain a Santa Fe County business license. Number 4, the facility shall comply with requirements set forth in the NMRLD for the collection and disposal of solid waste regarding unusable cannabis. This report and this exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Staff requests the hearing officer memorialize findings of fact and conclusion of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter on February 20th, 2025. Hearing Officer Abear, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. I don't believe I have any questions for you. I did have a question for the applicant. If they're here to testify, or their agent. Yes, please, would you come forward? Thank you.
I do. Dylan Steelman, 18 Loma Lane, Espanola, New Mexico, 87532.
Thank you, Mr. Steelman. Do you live on this property?
Yes,
You do. And I think your application indicated that you and perhaps family members would be the only employees. Is that right?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there's a proximity to a school that's, you estimate to be 1,685 feet away. What is that school?
It's the Tony Quintana Elementary School.
Okay.
It's a little over 2.5 miles from the premises.
Okay. I saw an indication that it was 1,685 feet away, but I think that would still be within the allowed distance under the state law. And finally, I just had, I was confused about the water. There was an indication that it would be 112,000 gallons a year. And then on Exhibit A, there was a statement that it would be 561 gallons a year. And it seems like that's a huge difference. I don't know if you've got those figures. How much do you anticipate the water usage will be for this?
It's going to be closer to the first number that you had mentioned.
Okay. Do you know how that translates into acre feet? I'm just trying to get a grip on this usage.
I do not know how that transfers into acre feet. I am not using the irrigation water. I'm actually hauling water from Santa Fe County that I have a commercial account with.
Okay, so you have a separate domestic well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine, thank you.
In hearing officer, that would be about 1.3 acre feet.
Oh, thank you. Those are the only questions I had. Do you have any other comments you want to make about this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank
Thank you
you.
for your time.
Yes, and I'll have a recommended order within 15 business days.
Alrighty.
Thank you. The next case on the agenda is case 245280, Reyes.
Hearing officer,
Yes.
if I may interrupt. You didn't ask for public comment on the previous case.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I'm sorry. We'll go back to the HDH Farms case. HDH.
My name is Ricardo Barrera, and I'm at 16 Camino de Paz. I'm the neighbor to Mr. Dillon there. I'm on the north side of the river. I've lived at this property for 12 years, and so I've seen a lot what's been going on. Mr. Dillon, he's purchased it before. This is the first time we're aware of what's been going on, and I can tell you, may I read what's my concerns with this?
I'm sorry, Mr. Barella, what do you mean he purchased this before?
So I've owned the property, I've owned my house for 12 years. And it's just been, just an agricultural resident area until Mr. Dillon purchased it. And he's changed the way everything, just the noises, the smells. We're very concerned about what's going on with our neighbor to the south.
And
And my concerns are, we are against the CUP for the following reasons. We are raising a 15-year-old son and have stressed a drug-free life, including marijuana. We understand that it has been legalized, but in our responsibility to continue to impress upon our son that any type of drug, including the one that we are recently realized is not acceptable. If we agree to this, it brings marijuana closer to our home environment, and we are not comfortable with that. Number two, we are concerned about the security that will be used to protect these plants. We imagine it will involve many lights and possible armed guards. We presume there will be cameras and razor wire that will look like a prison. I think this type of operation is best suited for a commercial industrial area instead of an agricultural residential area. The lights used for the security required will likely take away from the night sky. We and our neighbors have grown accustomed to, filled with stars and not dimmed by lights used to protect these plants. We are in an agriculture area and depend on the water rights. We have many animals that require watering and do not want to have to worry about sharing water to hydrate these plants, especially in the desert we live in. And this year is going to be a tough year because we don't have any snow. So it's going to be tough as far as water. And these plants, they require, especially when they're budding and the flowers coming out, more than 6 gallons per. And there's going to be 200 plants. So I can tell you, the cows that we raise, the sheep and the goats, they don't consume as much water that these plants are going to consume. And we have fruit trees and animals and cows. So the outdoor odors coming from these plants have been noticed by several of our neighbors, and there is concern to increase potency, the potency of the smells that these plants are in place. So these people, they go to work, they work in Los Alamos, they come home in the afternoon, and they have to smell these plants all night long. Since they don't have refrigerated air, they have swamp coolers. These swamp coolers they're just getting the smell, and they're just all night long. They can't even run their air conditioners because of these plants.
Mr. Barella, excuse me, but are there other cannabis-producing farms in your area?
No, none.
But you're saying that you're already experiencing this?
He's growing these plants there. He is growing these plants. So we've had to deal with this 2024. So these plants are being grown on the premises. So in conclusion, we do not support the CUP for the above reason and hope you will take these concerns seriously and consider of the approved request. Now, these plants were grown as a hemp, and what they do is they park on my side of the road at night, and they go over the river, they cross the river, they jump over the barbed wire, and they go in and they steal these plants. And then they just drop them all over the place and trying to get out. So there's been gunfire and yelling And it's just, yeah, we don't like it. So there's also another school that's a neighbor to mine, and he gave me a letter. He couldn't be here. But may I read this to you?
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
I'm going to read you the letter from Camino de Paz. It's a Montessori secondary school and farm. They have kids that milk, and they're responsible for all the growing of the goats. There's about 200 goats that are on the premises, a couple cows, and they milk this. They turn the milk into ice cream, and they sell it here in Santa Fe. What he wrote, I am the director, Greg Newsombaum, of the Camino de Paz School. Our school is located less than 200 yards from the proposal site on the north side of this cannabis. It's another school. It is against all ordinance to establish this adjoining or in a close proximity of the school property. We have served the local community for the past 25 years and have had scores of students and families devastated from the drug use. Our school front on State Road 76 runs to the river. The property is directly on the other side of Santa Cruz. Our river frontage is the common drug use and sales point. This county police are called out to this point or run down to 76 to attend overdoses on a weekly basis. Simply look at your police reports. Cultivating marijuana, either indoors or outdoors, in the neighborhood is inconceivable. There are countless programs and studies showing that marijuana industry has increased the potency of the THC and its effects on and far beyond the elevation studies of this led to the legalization. This is rogue industry that is on the verge of closure. The county commissioners need to look beyond the short-term tax revenue gains to the long-term devastation of the community. I would encourage the commissioner to listen to the PBS documentary, Clearing the Smoke. Marijuana is nor will it ever be approved by the FDA. Smoked marijuana delivers 4 times the tar the cigarettes is. It is higher carcinogen and is more addictive to the alcohol. Sincerely, Greg Newsombaum.
Thank you, Mr. Barella.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please ask me.
Well, I just want to go back to that 200 yards from this school with
Yes.
all the goats. It's 200 yards from
It's 600 feet from the corner of the property to,
from the
Dylan's.
corner
Of the
Mr. Steelman's property?
Yes.
To, okay.
yes.
But he does have 15 acres, so I don't know how that would fit into,
And he does have 15 acres. So from the corner of his 15 acres to the corner of the school, which they have 11 acres, is 600 feet,
okay.
exactly 200 yards.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ask the applicant to come back and explain to us about your security and whether you've had any problems, as Mr. Barella described, and what kind of lighting you're going to have.
Well, let me start by saying that there will be no sharing of water because I'm purchasing my water from
Yes.
Santa Fe County. So the irrigation water, that's not an issue.
Yes, I
We're-
understand.
You know, this is my family farm as well. We have animals, goats, chickens, cows. We have a livestock guardian dogs that are on the property. As far as the surveillance lighting goes, these are all downward shielded lights that don't affect the night sky whatsoever. They're all set on motion sensors, so only if something breaks the perimeter of the property do they come on. Cannabis is a photosensitive plant, which meaning any outside light could be detrimental to the plant's growing conditions. So we want to have minimal light pollution as well for the area, and even more so for myself in my home. You know, I don't want to be looking out in a big field that's lit up with lights. We're very low impact. We implement companion planting, composting, mulching, and other techniques for water preservation. and less impact on the landfill. We don't really take anything to the landfill other than our household garbage.
Could you describe your security fencing for this proposed grow area?
So just like all the other properties there in the neighborhood, you know, we have a livestock fence all around the whole 15 acres, and then around the immediate cannabis grow area, there's a 6-foot fence with tan shade cloth for privacy and vision blocking directly around the cultivation area itself. There is no razor wire, there's no barbed wire.
Is it locked, or could there be access into that area?
It is all locked, yes, ma'am.
It is locked. All right, thank you.
And the school is quite a bit farther than 200, Camino La Paz is quite a bit farther than 200 yards from the corner of my premises. It's about a mile from the property, just a little bit less than a mile. It's 9/10 of a mile away from the property, from the very edge of my property to the edge of their property.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, or staff, does staff have any comments about this application? Yes, Mr. Barella, if you come forward.
So there, under the tree, if you look at Google Maps, you're gonna see a big pond that's, when it starts, when the acequia runs, he's filling that pond up. And how do we know that it's not going to these plants? And when we're talking about just a cattle fence, you can go right through it, because I deal with it all the time. Just all these people at night, they just park and then they're crossing in and grabbing these plants. So I'm concerned about the water, the pond. We shouldn't have ponds on our properties. None of the residents have ponds, but he has a pond, and it's under that tree, and it's a huge pond. So how do we know that this water from our acequia, that we're growing our tomatoes and we're watering our fruit trees and our animals, are not going to these plants? We don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steelman, do you want to address the theft issue of plants?
The pond was actually put in on that property in 1981. It's used as a sand trap for the irrigation ditch, so everybody else farther down the ditch. I'm the first property on the Acequia de Sombrio. So when it gets diverted into our concrete ditch off of the Santa Cruz River there's quite a bit of sand in it. So they put that pond in well before I ever bought that property as a sand trap to clear the sand out of the irrigation ditch, so it's cleaner water for everybody using the water. We don't use that water for the cannabis whatsoever. Our cultivation technique requires clean water. We don't want fluctuating pHs. It's very important for us to have a good, clean source of water that's not the natural irrigation water off of the river with potential contaminants in it. And
Have you had problems with theft at your property?
we did a hemp farm from 2018 when New Mexico signed on to the farm bill. We had hemp from 2018 until 2022. And hemp is cannabis as well. It looks just like marijuana. So we would have people who would hop our fence, but it was planted just like we're planting our alfalfa. There were no security measures whatsoever. It was not in a fenced area within the property. We planted it just like our alfalfa is planted, all the way down to the end of our rows. And we were using our irrigation water for the hemp as it's federally legal. And
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments on this application?
Hearing Officer Hebert, there is nobody online wishing to speak.
Okay, well, again, I'll issue a recommended order in 15 business days. Thank you all. The next case today is case 245280, Reyes Huerta, applicant requesting a variance of dimensional standards for the residential estate area.
Good afternoon, Officer Aber. My name is Maggie Valdez. I'm a Development Review Specialist Senior. Today I come before you with case number 24-55280, Reyes Huerta variance. Reyes Huerta applicant Vigil Design, Annette Vigil, agent, request a variance of Chapter 9, Table 9-8-7, dimensional standards residential estate setbacks to allow an accessory structure to encroach within the 50-foot rear setback. The subject property lies within the residential estate zoning district with La Cieneguilla Community Overlay District, which allows for one single-family residence per 2.5 acres. The property is located at 47 Sunset Road, SDA 2, Commission District 3. History. The applicants constructed a 30 by 70 square foot accessory structure that encroached 31 feet on a 50-foot setback without obtaining a development permit from Santa Fe County. The structure does not meet the setback requirements outlined in the Sustainable Land Development Code. Summary. The applicant is requesting a variance of Table 9-8-7C setback to allow a 30 foot by 70 square foot existing accessory structure to encroach on the required 50-foot rear setback. The property lies within the residential estate zoning district within La Cieneguilla Community Overlay District. The applicant states, I am asking for a variance for a 30 by 70 foot accessory structure that I placed on my property that was not permitted. The area is on the only reasonable place to put it due to terrain constituents. If the setback variance for the accessory structure is not approved and we had to tear it down, would it create a financial burden due to material and timelines of completing the accessory structure? Table 9-87 illustrates that the setbacks are 25 feet from the front property boundary and 50 from the side and rear property boundaries within the RES-E zoning district. The accessory structure encroaches on the required 50-foot setback by approximately 31 feet. In response to Section 4.9.74, the applicant has addressed the variance criteria as follows. The applicant has addressed the variance, and staff has responded to the applicant's comments. Building and Development Service staff has conducted a site inspection on the property. Building and Development Service staff reviewed the variance application for compliance with the pertinent SLDC requirements and found that the facts presented do not support the request for a variance to allow that accessory structure to encroach into the required setbacks. Specifically, staff found that there are other buildable areas on the property, but the structure was constructed without permits. The applicants could have consulted with staff prior to constructing the structure, and staff would have advised the applicants of the setback requirements, thus avoiding this situation entirely. Recommendation. Staff recommends denial of the variance request to allow an existing unpermitted structure to encroach into the required 50-foot setback. The applicant's request for a variance does not meet the criteria for variance set forth in the SLDCs. If the hearing officer finds that the variance request has met the variance criteria and finds that the variance request is a minimal easing and recommends approval of the variance to allow an existing structure to encroach on the required 50-foot setback, staff recommends the following conditions be imposed. Hearing officer Aber, may I enter the conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
The applicant shall obtain an after-the-fact development permit from Santa Fe County for the construction of the existing structure. The applicant will close off existing driveways and enter at the east side of Sunrise Road. No further accessory structure shall be allowed on the property. The applicant will need to follow the sustainable design standards and code requirements found in Chapter 7 of the SLDCs. The applicant shall obtain a building permit from CID. The applicant shall clean up any debris left behind. This report and exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Staff requests that the hearing officer memorialize findings of fact and conclusion of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter on February 20th, 2024. Hearing Officer Hebert, I stand for questions.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez, I'm confused. I'm looking at Exhibit D, which is 2 pages, and it's the top page is the aerial of the property. And then I'm also looking at Exhibit J, which shows a drawing.
I put that drawing in there because, so it was recorded and it shows the dwelling. I still just stuck it in there. I apologize for that.
Well, no,
Officer Hebert.
I'm just trying to determine what structure we're talking about,
So-
how it appears on the aerial.
Well, right now on the aerial, it's not showing. I couldn't find a picture that would actually show the structure on it.
Okay.
He just-
So if you did find that aerial, where would it be on this aerial photo? Would it be, let's see, if we're looking at the aerial photo.
So if we're looking at the aerial, let me see. If we could go back to the pictures, let's see. I put some pictures in here, Officer Hebert. So go to Exhibit C.
Well, I didn't try to do the
Okay.
printout of those. Oh, good, thank you.
Home is right here. And this is the old. Yes, and then there's the.
From this way, the structure would be like here, in the boundary. So I can disregard this Exhibit J, that drawing.
Okay.
I mean, I think it fits. No, it doesn't really. I don't think that would line up with what you just described to me. So I'll just ignore the J and go with the fact that the aerial doesn't show it, but it would be to the top of the aerial, or to the right side of the aerial. And it already exists. This,
The structure already
it
exists.
already does, okay.
It's not completed, but it does exist.
What does staff consider to be the front of this property, as far as going from the front to the side setbacks to the rear setbacks? What
Officer-
would be the front?
Officer Hebert, I'm gonna let Jordan or John answer that question. They actually went out to the site.
Okay.
Hearing Officer Hebert, as it sits right now, the front would be where the front door enters the property and the access point is located by. And that is right next to, if you can see at that aerial for Exhibit D, where the tennis court is.
So it's on the side of the old tennis court? Is that
Hearing
would be
Officer
the front?
Hebert, that is correct.
Oh, I see, okay. Where is the drive to access this residence? Where is the driveway?
Hearing Officer Hebert, it is right where that aerial, the same location. It pans off to the left of that aerial. So it would be going north.
All right, I think I see a truck.
Yes.
Maybe it's a truck, and it connects to a road that I don't see.
Hearing Officer Hebert, that is correct. It loops around into the main road, and this is why there's a condition that they connect appropriately to the top, because that was unsuitable for fire.
So there's no way to consider this garage as being in the front? Because you're talking about the front being this part where, between the old tennis court and the residence. That would be the front.
Hearing Officer, where the tennis court is, that would be the front, and it would not fit within that area. If you look at there's a drainage, it seems like it used to be an old drainage to the right there. It's the structure's right there on the southern boundary of that property line.
And looking again at the aerial, the southern boundary is going to be the right side of the photo?
Hearing Officer Aber, that is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all the questions I had. Thank you. Is the applicant here to speak on the application?
Yes, I do. Annette Vihil, 23 Hakona Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87506.
Ms. Vihil? Yes. Would you like to add anything to what the staff has testified as to this application?
I can't add anything meaningful. I was hired after the fact to help him submit drawings for the permit, and it was at that time that it was discovered that he was in violation of the setbacks. And so he wanted to continue forth with the variance.
I see.
I was hired to draw the structure and get it in for the county submittal process.
Did you do the drawing that's been marked as the exhibit? I was confused by.
I'm not sure, let me see, I don't have the documents.
Hearing Officer, that would be Exhibit J.
J, okay, yes. Ms. Valdez, you've got J?
Yeah, it's getting right there. Thank you. Sorry. I put everything back in my packets. Thank you.
Yes, I did those, correct.
Okay, thank you. And is that where the garage is at present?
I believe so. I've not been out to the property, but yes, that's where it was. And the driveway that comes in off the east side of the property, that was the new location based on the conversation with the fire department, Renee Nix. So that was that was our attempt to at least satisfy the concern about fire access or for fire apparatus.
I see. Where was the access prior to that?
It was on the northwest corner. You'll see at the upper northwest corner, and it just it skirts
Yes,
the
okay.
the property. It says it's the existing drive.
Yes, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and it was too narrow to satisfy the width requirements because the fire trucks, the fire department requires a 14-foot wide easement and driveway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have any other questions. Is there anything else that the applicant wants to add to this matter? Thank you. Is anyone here to speak on this application? Yes, there are people. If you'd come forward.
I do. My name is Patrick Brockwell. I live at 53 Cerro del Alamo.
Could you spell your last name?
Brockwell.
Rockwell. Thank you.
So, Mr. Huerta had a meeting for the neighborhood, and I attended it. He told me that he plans to use this structure to park cars. I read the code and I see it's allowed to have covered parking in a residential estate. But what he's building is a 3-bay with a shop structure that is in appearance commercial. It's a commercial automotive repair shop that he claims he's going to park cars in. It's not only violates the setbacks, it's not within the code. There's enough room to park 20 cars in there. This sounds like automotive business to me. It's a tall structure. The three bays are 12-foot at least high garage doors with an attached shop to it. So this is not what he's applying for. What he has built is different than what the code allows. And that's my objection, not only the setback, but that what he's got going is commercial in scale and appearance. And we live in a residential area, and this does not fit within what is normally going on in our neighborhood, and that's why I'm opposing it. I'm here also, I've spoken with 5 other neighbors that are opposed to it who couldn't be here. And the neighborhood is not pleased about what's going on here. The day they started erecting the structure, I went over to speak to them to ask if he had a permit. I was met with a hostile response, and so I made a call to the code enforcement, and they came right out and red tagged it. But this is, I mean, he's on a 1 1/4 acre lot. It just doesn't support the scale of this building, and like I say, it's not residential in appearance. This is not a carport. This is a commercial shop structure. That's all I
Mr.
have.
Rockwell, thank you.
Thank you.
Was there someone else? Would you come forward, please?
Yes. My name is Michael Whitt, W-H-I-T-T. I live at 45 Sunset Road. So the property is directly behind our house. And while the structure is large, my understanding is that his son is interested in racing cars and has a number of vehicles. So it doesn't really appear to be a commercial auto repair shop. And being directly behind our house, it really has no loss of aesthetic value. There is another home being built even behind that property. So it seems that, yes, the issue was this setback, which obviously was a mistake. But as far as we are concerned, and we also own the property where the tennis court is, we're not sure what we're going to do with that tennis court. We bought the house 2 years ago. It's in disrepair. If there is needing to be widening of the driveway, then we would be happy to allow that to occur on, next to where our tennis court, quote unquote, tennis court is. And the access to his house actually comes off of Sunset Road and basically passes beside our property. So I don't really understand the issue with widening of the road, but currently he does not have a garage, a carport, and I think it would actually be preferable for the neighborhood to have the cars in a structure rather than having them parked in the driveways. So I support the variance being given so he can keep his cars in a structure protected from the environment and allow his son this hobby, if you will, of car racing.
Thank you, Mr. Whitt. Are there any other comments on this application? If not, and is there anyone online?
Hearing Officer Aber, there is no one online wishing to speak on this application.
Thank you. Then I will prepare a recommended order within 15 business days. Thank you all for coming. The next case today is case number 245260, Loretta Martinez Cargo, variance request. Ms. Valdez, thank you.
Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Aber. My name is Maggie Valdez. I'm a Development Review Specialist Senior. Today I come before you with case number 245260, Loretta Martinez Cargo applicant. Request a variance of Chapter 8, Section 8.6.3, Table 8-7, Dimensional Standards Rule Fringe, to create a two-lot residential subdivision on a parcel of land consisting of 49.11 acres. The subject property lies within the Rule Fringe zoning district, which allows for one single-family residence per 20 acres. The property is located at 7679B Old Santa Fe Trail, SDA 2, Commission District 4. Summary. The applicant's sister, Maria Martinez, is the owner of the property as indicated by warranty deed recorded in the records of the Santa Fe County Clerk's Office on March 2nd, 2021. Recorded as
Ms. Valdez, I'm just going to stop you here.
Okay.
Right, because the way I understand it from that statement, and I understand this wasn't your case, that it was Ms. Ortega's, but if the applicant doesn't own this property, I'm confused how she would be the one to be able to come in here and ask for a variance if she hasn't owned the property.
So I'm assuming Loretta Martinez is the older sister, if I'm not correct, and they all have property? No?
Hearing Officer, I believe we have a consent for the applicant to apply on behalf of the property owner.
I didn't see that in the exhibits.
Hearing Officer Aber, we do have the applicant's sister in the building, and she is here to give authorized consent.
All right, all right. Maybe we could swear her in so we could do that.
Thank you. My name is Maria de la Gracia Martinez. My address is off of 7679B Old Santa Fe Trail at 6B Little Island Road, Santa Fe, 87505.
And Ms. Martinez, you're aware of this application to request a variance of the property, is that correct?
I am aware of that. My responsibility inherited is the responsibility of all the acreage there.
I see.
And I fully support my sister to be able to have the 3 acres our father wanted for her prior to his passing.
So, Ms. Martinez, is it your intention?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
Is it your intention that you will deed this property to your sister Loretta?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you kindly.
Ms. Valdez, I'm sorry, we just need to get that cleared up.
No problem, Ms. Aber. The property is accessed off Old Santa Fe Trail. The applicant is seeking to divide the property into a 2-lot residential subdivision where the applicant is able to get a 3-acre tract and the rest be kept preserved for wildlife. The applicant is also requesting a variance of density to allow 1 dwelling unit per proposed lot to be created. The property is split between rural fringe and residential estate. Chapter 8, Section 8.6.3 of the SLDC requires a minimum lot size of 1 dwelling per 20 acres base density. Chapter 8, Section 8.6.6 of the SLDC requires a minimum of 1 dwelling per 2.5 acres base density. There is no permit for the existing residents on the property, and it will need an after-the-fact permit, as well as an additional variance for density since it is a 2-story dwelling. Santa Fe County staff has conducted a site inspection on the property. County staff will be issuing an after-the-fact permit for the home. The applicant's response to the variance review criteria is as follows. The applicant has addressed the variance criteria and staff has responded to the application comments. Recommendation. The SLDC zoning has divided this property into 2 separate density requirements because it is a split between 2 zoning districts. The required density for rural fringe on the northern part of the property is 1 dwelling per 20 acres. As for the southern part of the property, which is a residential estate, is 1 dwelling per 2.5 acres base density. If the entire parcel as a whole was in residential estate, the applicant would be able to split the property administratively. Staff believes the applicant has satisfied the criteria for granting of this requested variance and recommends approval of the variance requests. Hearing Officer Hebert, may I enter the conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
But hold on 1 second, Ms. Officer Hebert. There's an attachment here. I apologize for that. Staff requests the hearing officer memorialize findings of fact and conclusion of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter February 20th, 2025. Hearing Officer Hebert, I stand for questions.
Ms. Valdez, I'm looking at Exhibit C, which is a drawing of the Martinez family property. It's 1 page.
Okay.
It's Exhibit C, is it? You have it? Oh, okay. So there, within this property, and I assume that's the 49 plus acres, 4911 acres, the total. There are two, there's a tract A2, which seems to be the one with a dwelling on it, and there's a road, a driveway leading up to it. Is that the property at issue? And then if that's the case, what is the property delineated right below that?
If I'm not correct, it's the now or formerly Teresa Martinez. Is that?
The dwelling.
Just a moment. Would you swear her in, please?
Loretta Martinez Cargo, 27 Little Island Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87505. The tract belongs to a sibling who's had that property for years. So
You're talking about the one that is below?
yes,
is that
the one
correct?
below belongs to a sibling. The one above is the one we're talking about, which is tract A2.
And Ms. Martinez Cargo, the A2, is that little dashed line kind of midway, is that part of the division between the rural fringe and the rural residential? Is that what that line's supposed to represent?
I believe so. The surveyor is the one who created this drawing.
Hearing Officer Aber, if I may clarify, that is just the meets and bounds and distances to the residence from the proposed property boundaries.
Okay.
The actual zoning cuts the lower one-third portion of this property, which would be where is now our family, Teresa, tract 3 acres or so, that title right there. That is the lower location, one-third that is actually split the zoning between the two properties, between the entirety of the property.
So which zone does the A2 fall into? Does it fall into the fringe zoning or the estate zoning?
Hearing Officer, that is correct. It falls into the higher density
The higher,
requirement. Yeah.
otherwise there wouldn't be a request, I guess, yeah. Okay, so the variance is to instead have this one dwelling on 20 acres to allow it to be the, is it 3 acres? It's hard for me to
Yes,
say.
it would be 3
Be
acres.
3 acres.
And the rest would just be left wild and
I see.
undeveloped.
Okay, okay.
That's the plan.
That's like a puzzle, all right, thank
Hearing
you.
Officer, just for clarification, it's an unusual case. We typically don't see the zoning split properties, very rarely. So it's put this particular application in a bind.
And this probably existed before 2016. I mean, it was the,
Hearing Officer, the lot did exist. The zoning may have split this property when they did the zoning map.
I see, okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Valdez. Was there anything else you wanted to add to this? Is that all that you have for this?
Yes, that's it.
The recommended? All right. Is anyone here wanting to speak on this application in favor or opposed? And is anyone online?
Here in Officer Aber, there's nobody online wishing to speak.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Martinez, for coming. Otherwise, it would have been a problem. All right. And I will issue a recommended order in 15 business days. Thank you. The last case on today's agenda is the case number 245300, James Portillo and Miguel Portillo, applicants are requesting a variance of the density requirements.
Good afternoon, hearing officer Aber.
Hello.
Before you today, we have James C. Portillo and Miguel Portillo, the applicants, requesting a variance of Chapter 8, Section 8.6.86, Table 8-10, the dimensional standards for residential estate to create a two-lot residential subdivision on a parcel of land consisting of 2.5 acres, more or less. The subject property lies within the residential estate zoning district, which allows for one single-family residence per 2.5 acres. The applicants met with staff to submit the application to allow the property to be split into two lots, both containing 1.25 acres each. The applicants are requesting a variance of Chapter 8, Section 8.6.6, Table 8-10, dimensional standards for residential estate to create two-lot residential subdivision. The applicant state that his grandparents gifted him and his brother the 2.5 acre lot to split to have the ability to establish a residence each. The applicants are planning to both share a well amongst both lots to be created. The applicant has addressed the variance criteria as addressed in the memo. Staff's recommendation. Building and Development Services staff has reviewed this request for compliance with the pertinent SLDC requirements and has found that the facts presented do not support the request for a variance. The use may impact adjacent land uses. No extraordinary and exceptional conditions of the land exist. Staff recommends denial of the request for a variance of Chapter 8, Section 8.6.6, Table 8-10, Dimensional Standards, Residential Estate to create a two-lot residential subdivision on a parcel of land consisting of 2.5 acres. If the hearing officer finds that the application has met the variance criteria and recommends approval of the variance, staff recommends the following conditions be imposed. Hearing officer Aber, may I enter these conditions into the record?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I stand for any questions.
Mr. Quintana, I'm looking at Exhibit E, which is the notice, and all I see is the indication of the publication notice. Do you have in your records the posting and mailing?
Hearing officer Aber, notice was completed through the New Mexican posting on site and also through the letters mailed out to all neighbors within 500 feet.
And you have those in your records?
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that there was, again, an indication of the property I was trying to figure out from looking one of these exhibits. If you'll look at Exhibit C,
Yes, ma'am.
which segment of property is the property at issue here?
The property in question that we're discussing today is directly in the middle, 11A Calle de Portillos.
So it would be splitting 11A into, no.
So,
It would be that 2.5 acres would be those two divisions.
Hearing officer Aber, that's correct.
Is that correct?
Hearing officer Aber, I'd like to add that the road Calle de Portillos has been built and is to standard currently as it lies today with all fire turnarounds in place.
And I see that on this drawing. Has there been any other division in this family?
Hearing officer Aber, a previous division to create these lots was completed as of last year.
And was that through the family transfer? Is that how that occurred?
Correct.
So that's not available for this property?
Correct, Hearing officer Aber. The family transfer is to require, be in place as all zoning standards. I'm sorry, I drew a blank there. We no longer have the small lot family transfer that allowed individuals to go below the zoning minimum requirement.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Does the applicant want to speak on this matter? Yes.
My name is James Portillo. I live at 90 North Fork, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508.
My name is Miguel Portillo. I live at 90 North Fork, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508.
Thank you for allowing us to be here today. My brother and I, Miguel and James Portillo, are owners of our 2.5-acre lot located at 11 Calle de Portillos here in Santa Fe County in the Turquoise Shoal area. We were gifted this undeveloped 2.5-acre lot by our grandparents, Arturo and Nancy Portillo, with their plan for each of us to have 1.25 acres separately owned and have the ability to establish a residence. My grandparents bought this property roughly in 1980 and have owned 15 acres in this particular area since, where my grandma still resides to this day. Earlier this year, my grandparents subdivided their remaining 7.5 acres. They generously gifted 3 2.5-acre lots to my brother and I and 2 sets of other cousins. Their intentions was to keep our family close-knit with hopes of obtaining our residency close to one another. Currently, within 500 feet, my father and my uncle and aunt and my grandma live all in this particular area close to our property. The particular zoning where my property lies has proved many hardships for my brother and I as co-owners who are eager to develop and have a residence of our own. Being co-owners of this 2.5-acre lot, it is not possible for each of us to obtain a loan and develop and establish a residence on the property, being that it is one parcel. Granting this variance would enable each of us to secure individual loans and develop our own residences, thereby fulfilling our grandparents' vision of having all of our family close by. We believe granting this variance would not only benefit us, but also align with the community's development goals by allowing young local residents the opportunity to stay in Santa Fe and contribute positively to the area. Being that our parcel is co-owned, the zoning code in this particular area only allows for 1 main house and 1 guest house, the guest house only being half the size of the main house. If granted, this variance will allow my brother and I to individually have an adequate size house that fits our individual's family's needs. In the same manner, if granted, this variance will enable each of us to manage our own individual electric bills, which is much more fair and practical. As co-owners of this parcel, having 1 combined electricity bill for 2 potential households can lead to confusion and potential disagreements over usage and payments. By granting this variance, we can ensure clear accountability and financial independence of each household, making it easier to budget and manage our expenses effectively. My brother and I both plan to share 1 water well for the combined 2.5 acres. We understand the importance of maintaining the character and integrity of Santa Fe County and the Turquoise Shoal area, and are committed to ensuring that any development on our property adheres to these principles. We are more than willing to address any concerns to ensure that our plans are in line with the community and county standards. In this past year, we established easement access to this property, which was up to county standards and was approved by Santa Fe County Land Use. We had to put in $11,000, a little more than $11,000 just to have this easement access established, and that was just to have the property transferred from my grandparents' name to my brother and I. Additionally, I'm currently 28, my brother here is 22, and we still live with our dad and are eager to have a place of our own, and this is our opportunity to do so. As we all know, it's very hard to establish and get a residence here in Santa Fe, being with the cost of living so high, and we want to try and take full advantage of the opportunity my grandparents presented to us. We want to also fulfill my grandparents' wishes. My grandpa, who gifted this property to us, unfortunately passed away a little over more than 1 month ago, and when he was still able to get out and walk around, he was able to see the progress that we've made with this project, and he was very pleased and happy to see all that. Additionally, I also work for Santa Fe County Fire Department as a full-time employee, and one of the reasons why I chose to work for Santa Fe County is to help people in my community and serve the people who I grew up around, as well as in the area that I grew up and have been born and raised in. My brother here also works for City of Santa Fe Animal Control, who also wanted to serve his community and help in any way needed. I also own a business here in Santa Fe, and allowing us to have our residence here in Santa Fe and take advantage of the opportunity my grandparents presented with us will allow us to positively contribute to Santa Fe and our community here where we grew up. By granting this variance, it allows us to maintain the family-oriented nature of our property while adhering to the community's development goals. By subdividing the lot, we are not only preserving the historical and family significance of the land, but also contributing positively to the local community, allowing young residents like ourselves to stay in and invest in Santa Fe.
I would just like for you to take everything we brought to you in front of you today, man, into consideration. I would like to fulfill my grandpa's dreams. I would love to have these properties split up. So for me and my brother, for each of our families, so we could each have our own separate home and just be a family as all one.
Mr. Portillo, could I just ask you, on either side of this property that you were gifted, are those improved properties? Do they have houses on them? Do you have?
No, ma'am. The 3 parcels that you see on the map, I believe that you're looking at earlier, that is in total the 7.5 acres that was gifted to my brother and I, as well as 2 other cousins. So the lot on the left is owned by 2 other cousins, as well as the lot on the right. Those are all 3 are undeveloped property. The only additions we've made is the easement access to get into the property.
I see, okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Is anyone else in the room who wants to make a comment on this application? Is there anyone online that wants to make a comment?
Here now, Sir Abear, there is nobody online wishing to speak.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I do. My name is James Portillo, Sr. I'm the father of these 2 boys. I reside at 90 North Fork, Santa Fe, 87508. Yeah, like they said, you know, my mom and dad, they wanted us all to be together, which somehow they had a plan 40 years ago. And they've worked really, really hard to try to keep that, you know, thoughts with them and working on the road. And I know they want to live there, and they're, you know, productive gentlemen. They both have good jobs and careers, and so, you know, I'm all for it, all on board with, you know, hopefully with this going through. So hopefully you'll see it.
And Mr. Portillo, are you a neighbor to this property?
Yeah. I live on 90 North Fork, where they live with me.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any other people here that want to comment on this application? No. Well, I will prepare a recommended order in 15 business days on this case. And with that, there are no other cases on the docket, so this hearing is adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance.